Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at jonnydelsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49.
What is up, everybody? Good morning on this Friday. Give me a mic check. I don't have Adam with me today. He had an unfortunate event that he had to go to. So we are wishing him well in his endeavors and travels there. But we are here live. Sorry, it has been a little while since we've gone live. It's been about a little over a week and a half. Had some things come up Monday on President's Day. Wasn't able to go live, but we are here now, and we're going to start the draft season, diving into some film today. You know, when we look back on the 2025 49ers, there was one area that was beyond glaring as a need. No, I'm not talking about the wide receiver position. That was a glaring position of need as well. We were very underperforming there. But pass rush, we were the worst in the league at rushing the passer last year, mainly after Nick Bosa went down. And then after Micah Williams went down, it got even worse and even more of a need. So we're going to look at some edge prospects today, because one thing we saw with the 49ers last year is you have got to have at least another guy on the edge that can do multiple things. You can't have just a one-trick pony in a Bryce Huff there. You have to have somebody on the other side who can complement him. You can't have just Sam O on one side pushing the pocket and then Bryce Huff on the other. If he's not in there, you got to have somebody else over there. You've got to get at least a third, I think, high production pass rusher in this rotation on the edge. Micah Williams is not meant to be an edge pass rusher. He is meant to be an interior 3 technique pass rusher. And that is what they want to do with him. And so really, when we're looking at edge rushers, I think this is a strong edge rusher, speed rusher class. I think this is a draft class that has a number of good players that can win with some speed and burst off the edge, that are a little bit smaller than that 280, 275 kind of range. There's a lot of guys that are in the 245 to 265, more of an outside linebacker in a 3-4 types that are in this draft than I think there has been in a little while of those kind of edge players. Last year, we saw some really big edge players in a few different spots, like Shamar Stewart, for example. You know, he was pushing that 290, Micah Williams 285. You had a few other guys that were kind of like that body type that were there. This year is more of the smaller edge class, but I think guys that are more of that stand-up outside linebacker types that could be very good players. I think Von Miller is a good comp. I think Leonard Floyd is a good comp for some of these guys. Harold Landry. I think there's a number of guys kind of like that build. Boye Mafe from Seattle that are in this class that give you that kind of a player. Now, whether they will be those kind of players is yet to be seen. One thing that does kind of stand out here is that when you look at just the pass rushing side, there's not as much separation as you would think, even though that these guys are going to be spread out over from anywhere from a day one pick to a mid day three pick, with some of the guys that we'll talk about here. But it just becomes in how broad is your skill set. You go from guys who are, 5 out of 5 skill sets, you can do all those really well, down to 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5. That doesn't mean that that 2 out of 5 is bad. It just means that they're more limited, more role player, more niche player kind of skill sets as you get deeper in this draft as far as the edge class. So, I want to remind us as we get into this season that, and we get into the draft, that just because the 49ers don't pick, a guy that we're really excited about in round 1 or round 2 doesn't mean that who they get in round 4, round 5 won't have some really intriguing, exciting skill sets. We've seen the 49ers for years be able to pull some good draft picks in the 4th and 5th rounds, 6 rounds. So, there's a reason why that every year they're going to be talented, high skill set players in those rounds. Most of the time, they're just more niche guys that then they can develop into being really strong all around players. George Kittle would be a perfect example of that. He was seen as a niche blocker coming out. So the receiving side of him was seen as underdeveloped, as not as strong, but he was a really strong blocker coming out. So that's why he was a 5th round pick. Some of the other guys, they felt that went earlier in that draft, people were thinking they were going to be the better receiver, or they may not have quite the blocking, but the receiving made up for it, or they thought that both were just a tad better. When you got to George Kittle, it wasn't that most of the NFL didn't think he was a good blocker. Most of the NFL, most of the consensus was that George Kittle was a very good blocking tight end coming out. It's just they didn't value a blocking tight end that high. So he fell to the 5th round. Then he got to the 49ers, and we realized, he was only targeted like 49 times in college, period. And that wasn't his fault. And he became who we know today as an all-pro tight end. So just because a guy falls to that range doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad player. We also have to keep some things in perspective when looking at edge players, and specifically like sack numbers. Sack numbers don't tell the whole story, because, if a guy is really productive at sacks, he's going to get a sack maybe 5% of the time, 3 to 5%. If you have an edge player who's getting a sack on 3.5% of his pass rush opportunities, he's going to be one of the top edge rushers in the class. So you're talking about a difference of 2.5% to 3.5% his 2 rounds in the NFL draft. So it's not like we have to remember that these aren't huge spreads on some of these guys, because when a guy gets 3.5% sacks on 3.5%, they can have these gaudy sack numbers. But then that's why pressures are a stat that does have some influence, and it does have meaning, because there are some guys who can get a sack in only 3% of the dropbacks of the game, which means they may get a sack on one pass rush attempt in the game, and the rest of the game, 29, 30, 35 passing attempts, they disappear. But everybody says, well, this is a top edge rusher in this class. Well, if they're not getting any other pressures, yay for them for the 1 sack. But if you're not getting a pressure on 32 dropbacks, you've pretty much disappeared, and I'm not that excited about you as a prospect. So those are other things to keep in mind here as we go. But we're going to dive into the top 4, what I see as the top 4 edge rushers. That mainly, these are guys, well, not mainly, these are all guys who are also at the Senior Bowl. But I do believe that these are 4 prospects that really the 49ers should look at, deeply consider. But we're going to first start out with some honorable mentions. These are the guys that I think are going to be there. Some of them could be in as low as round 2 and up to round 5, I think, in the draft. And so we're gonna look at these guys. First guy I have on my list, and some people would probably put him maybe even higher than some of the guys I'm going to talk about, and that's Tyreek Sapp from Florida. Tyreek Sapp had a very strong Senior Bowl. I really wanted him after I had gone through all the clips to kind of keep him in that top four. He was just edged out a little bit, but Tyreek Sapp, I think, is a player who could be a very good defensive end at the next level. He's strong at the point of attack. He's got a lot of burst in the hands, violent hands. He's got a great first three steps, really. He's got good enough bend. He's got strong power, good speed to power. That was a running theme, though, throughout this draft class at the Senior Bowl that could be a very, very strong independent edge player going forward. I think if the 49ers drafted Tyreek Sapp, he would immediately be number 3 on the depth chart. I think he would supplant Sam O as that kind of third or fourth guy in on the rotation, and would bring you more juice as a pass rusher. He's not as big of a body as Sam O, but he can hold up against the run still well enough on the edge. So that's my first honorable mention. The second guy is Ndame Tucker from Western Michigan. I really like this kid. Incredible first step, good burst, good quickness up the field. He's a smaller guy. He's more the Harold Landry type, very, very long, lean, but really just dynamically fast, uses that length. He's got long arms. So he's somebody, though, that will be a specialist speed rusher off the edge. He wasn't exactly your, hard edge setter that's there unless the 49ers are in a true 3-4 front where they're going to have 5 down on the line. I don't see him as an edge player for us. If we are moving towards more of this 3-4, then he would make more sense. He is definitely a 3-4 outside linebacker type. He's much more of that body type than he is a 4-3 defensive end. But somebody I really like, I'm trying to get him on the show actually for an interview, but really like Ndame Tucker. A guy that looks like his twin is Vincent Anthony from Kentucky. He's another long, lean Harold Landry body type who has a lot of speed off the edge, great first 3 steps, violent hands, and can really get around the hump with some aggression and speed. So those are those 3 guys. I really like the kid out of Iowa, Max Lewin. He doesn't bring as much juice as a speed rusher. There's other guys who are better power rushers. There's other guys who are better edge setters against the run, but he just kind of does everything at a pretty good level. He's probably, I think I would grade him as a 4th or 5th round pick. He's not going to bring you a huge high ceiling, but he brings you a really high floor. I think he's just going to be a really solid defensive end. He's not going to be one of those, household names. I don't think he has the physical tool set to do that, to be one of those 10 sack guys, 12 sack guys, but I think he can be a 6 or 7 sack guy and also give you a lot of edge setting in the run and be a rotational piece. If you're looking in the mid to late late day 2 rounds for somebody that you can plug in there and you're going to have a high floor that doesn't give you the risk of a bust, Max Lewin is somebody that I would definitely take a long look at. They're from Iowa, and the 49ers love those Iowa kids. So that's a player to be watching out for as well. My last honorable mention is maybe one of the more divisive later round picks, because he had a really strong Senior Bowl. But you go back and you look at his production in college, and it wasn't great. He only had 4.5 sacks in 2025, and he was playing at a smaller school. It wasn't like he was going and playing against monster defensive or offensive tackles every single round. So, or every single game. And so you do wonder, why wasn't the production there? But the physical tool set he showcased at the Senior Bowl was impressive. Extremely twitchy and bursty guy with great feet and quickness, could win with speed. Didn't hold up against at the point of attack against a run as well, but he would be a specialist pass rusher, and that's Quintavious Hutchins from Boston College. I think he's going to be a very intriguing guy going forward because the potential he has, the ceiling he has as a speed rusher is really high. The question is, why wasn't he reaching that potential at Boston College? He had an opportunity. You would expect him to be, with some of the skill sets he was showing, what we've seen in the past, especially that we saw this a lot last year with some of the smaller school guys who were getting, these 12, 14 sacks a year kind of numbers. He wasn't getting that, and you have to ask why. Was it a scheme issue? Was it a player issue? Was it a secondary issue? Sometimes you may have a really good defensive, pass rusher, but if the secondary is an absolute sieve, it doesn't really matter. The quarterback's able to get the ball out in 2.5 seconds every single time anyways. So it doesn't matter that you have a dynamic pass rusher over there. If you can't get him to hold the ball at all, then you're not going to have sacks. So that's going to be somebody as the weeks come forward. I'm going to go look at his tape, figure out what was going on there. The other part of this will be, you will see these draft slots change when the combine comes out. Mainly, every team is going to want to see these edge rushers as 10-yard splits. It's not about the 40 time. It's about the 10-yard split. 1.6 is like, that is at the breaking point of what separates, your top 10-yard split guys from everybody else. I think Nick Bosa's was 1.59. Von Miller was 1.57, that kind of a thing. So that 10-yard split, because it's really about how quickly can you cover 10 yards. They don't care how far a defensive end, how fast they can run 40 yards. They just want them to run 10. So it's really how quickly and how bursty can you get to that 10-yard range. So that'll move some things too as we go forward and see where these guys start falling out in these draft boards, because this first guy is somebody that he started out coming out of the 2024 season. I think he was seen by many as a consensus top 15 pick and was possibly even a top 10 pick, depending on who you talk to. And I'm talking about one TJ Parker from Clemson. He then had a 2024 or 2025, excuse me, where everybody was expecting him to increase in his sack numbers. I think he had 11 sacks in 2024. And they were expecting him to do better. They were expecting him to take the next step. And what ended up happening was he only had 4.5 sacks, 5 sacks, I think, in 2025. And everybody says, whoa, okay, that's not the arrow direction you want to see. And so he started falling in a lot of draft boards. Now, a lot of the fall off in production was due to teams started to everybody took notice of him, and draft scouts were taking notice of him, and opposing teams were taking a lot of notice of him. So he started to get a lot of chips, a lot of doubles, a lot of slides his direction. So he was having to deal with things that he wasn't dealing with before. Of, okay, now I have a challenge to win, even when I'm doubled, win in these times, or when I get those singles. Now the pressure is on even more. I've got to take advantage of the single one-on-one matchups I have. And so it's not as much that it should have been necessarily an arrow down, more an arrow of which way is your progression going to go from here in your growth. That is something that it does leave a little bit of question. This is where the background and interviews and everything are going to be so important with a kid like TJ Parker. They want to get to the bottom of which direction is your growth development trajectory going to go from here. Are you going to be a player that you learn some new skill sets and you're able to get over that, and then you now take off like a rocket again? Or are you somebody who just kind of continues with the one or two tricks in your bag, and that's what your career is? And you could have a decent career, but you're not going to be somebody that we want to invest a high first round pick in. And so TJ Parker, coming into the Senior Bowl, was consensus ranked about 32 overall, not among edge players, just overall. So some people had him as a late first, some people had him as an early second. Daniel Jeremiah 3 days ago, because he had a really strong Senior Bowl, ended up grading or mocking him to the Lions at pick 17. So that's how much he believes that his stock is rising after the Senior Bowl. And we're going to see some of this, but that doesn't, as we've seen, just because a guy like Daniel Jeremiah believes in somebody doesn't mean the rest of the league feels the same way, and guys can fall. So here he is, TJ Parker. One thing that stands out. So here's my scouting report on TJ Parker. He's a fast, twitchy edge with strong hand skills, bend, and speed to power. He can hold up at the point of attack, and his length causes issues for opposing tackles. He's got the best long arm move of any player that was at the Senior Bowl, any edge player. I think he's got one of the better long arms of any edge player in this draft class. He's a lengthy guy. He's a little over 6'4". I think he's 6'4.5". Long arms. You can see the length in those arms, and he knows how to use it. He's got a good first couple steps that he uses to push tackles vertical, and then he gets that long arm underneath their armpit and uses it to a devastating effect, as you see here. That is TJ Parker. He can get under a guy and just control defensive tackles with that length. I love that the coach coming in here, flying in here, excited. That always tells you something of how they feel about a guy. There he is. Look at him. He's all excited. That's one of the coaches in there. Here you see him again, works that long arm to drive the tackle vertical and then come back to the quarterback. So this is what I mean. He sets up with the speed. He's got the quickness to then loop underneath. He gets these tackles moving vertical, and then that long arm into that armpit area and drives them vertical to then work back to the quarterback. So he cuts off the quarterback's vertical escape, and then he uses that long arm to push them and come back underneath. That leads to a lot of success for him. Now, this was one of the best battles of the entire Senior Bowl week. This is Jennings Dunker, the kid that we talked a lot about. As a prospect. He was a tackle at Iowa. Here he's taking some reps at guard. Had a really strong Senior Bowl. Is one of the best offensive line prospects, I think, coming out in this class. And here you're going to see the hand fighting skills. So watch these hands. These guys are working. You can see Jennings Dunker. He's waiting for Parker to make the first move, and then he's going to punch off of that. So he's letting him do his stuff. So there it is. There's the hand fighting. This starts looking like Nick Bosa. You can see these guys fighting with their hands. I like this stuff. They're getting to him. And then he's patient, works Jennings Dunker out, and then gets into his chest and starts to drive. That's what I do like here about TJ Parker, and disengages. This was one of the few times that I felt like Jennings Dunker lost a rep. And this is another reason why people are thinking highly of TJ Parker, because this is not necessarily in his skill set of the hand fighting, the hand skills, but here really strong, really work it. And there's the drive back. He's working Jennings Dunker. Love to see that. That tells you he's working on those hand skills. Like to see it. It's there. And then you're going to see here the speed to power. So this is a guy that he'd set up with his speed and then long arm into the armpit. Now you're going to see speed to power. So there it is. All right, now we're going to do it. Work in, win again. He's again, that length gives tackles fits, and his burst off the edge. So here he is up at the top. You're going to see a strong speed to power rush here in the team drills. So now you got to see, okay, can you translate some of these things we've seen in the one-on-ones to your team drills? We're going to look at it from the end zone. We're going to see, here he is on the left side, and he's going to then, you see the speed to power come in on this tackle. They take forever to snap the ball here. There you go. And drives and plants the guy there. And forces a bad throw by the quarterback behind the tight end. Love to see that. Here he is at the bottom. You're going to see this long arm move translate into a would-be sack. So again, the translation from the individual drills. Or no, sorry, that was the next clip after this one. This one is, you see the speed that comes that he has off of the edge. So here the tackle is expecting him to do this speed to power thing he does, And so he's gonna set expecting that, but the speed is too much off the edge. So this is where again he's got multiple tools in his tool bag. He's got the physical sets. Oh, the tackle was like, oh, that was not expecting that one. And he just wins with speed right around the edge. Tackle doesn't even hardly get a hand on him. So you love to see that. You love to see that he's not just somebody who this isn't just for show. The speed moves vertical that he can stay on the track and go. Now you're going to see him at the bottom. This is where you're going to see the speed to power coming off the edge. Um, Again, they were really trying to get these quarterbacks um, to see the field and make checks. It was one of the first times I've seen them run a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage from quarterbacks. They were doing a lot of kills and cans. So here's that long arm again, translating what you saw in the individual drills to the field. So he's going to push this tackle vertical, then get that long arm up underneath the armpit. Best long arm in this class, I think. So there it is. There's the long arm to get up underneath that tackle, continue to push him vertical, and then come underneath for a would-be sack. So there's the long arm, disengage, and that's a sack. He's letting up because they don't want him creaming the quarterbacks. But you can see the potential that is there and why so many teams are and so many draft boards are looking high on this kid coming off the Senior Bowl for his performance. And then here he is. We're going to see him hold up against the point of attack on a run. That's something, again, if you're picking a guy this early, he's got to be able to be more than just a specialist pass rusher. He has got to be able to hold up against the run. And here, there's that accordion. There's the length to work this tackle. That's what you see. This is an outside zone, right? They want to expand this edge and be able to run up here if that happens. And you don't have a lane because now it makes life easier for the defensive tackle coming on the backside pursuit. Jennings Dunker is great up to the second level, but the running back isn't able to use any of it, take advantage of it because the edge has been condensed and now you've got backside pursuit on everything and they've got to cut the run back up in and that's stuffed and that's set up all because of TJ Parker. So that is the first kid that I'm looking at here from Clemson, TJ Parker. Let me catch up with the chat here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So want to get to the super chat here from Cayman's Island Podcast. Go watch his channel. Go click on his icon. It will take you straight to his channel. He talks 49ers stuff. He does a great job. I'm subscribed to his channel, so you should be too. He said Debo's combine was great. Best ever for a 49er. If you're talking about a player that the 49ers drafted, not so sure. If you're talking about a 49er, the player that was ever on the 49ers, definitely not. I think Deion Sanders probably had the greatest combine of any player ever. And all he did was show up, run the 40, and then run out the building into a limo and leave the combine. But there at the combine, I think it's unofficial. We don't have the official time, but from rumors of hand timing at the combine, the rumors were that that Dion ran a 4.2540 there, and he showed up, showed he had that speed that everybody thought he did, and left the building. So that may have been the greatest combine performance ever. I'm trying to think back through some of the big combine monsters that have been there for the 49ers. I want to say Solomon Thomas had a really good combine. He showed a lot of really elite physical traits. That was one reason the 49ers loved him. Now that, and he had a class with John Lynch. Danny Gray had a good combine. He ran that blazing fast 40 and everybody was sure he was going to be a great deep threat. Never worked out. So combine is something that what you want to look for is you look at their production, you look at their skill sets, and then you look at the combine is really good for the metrics of, okay, how high is some of their ceilings? Because what the combine really shows you is in a perfect world, in a perfect situation, who is the most dynamic athlete that, because there are things you can teach and there are things you can't teach. You can't teach a blazing fast 40. You can't teach a blazing fast uh 10-yard split. You can't teach a really great three cone from some of these guys. These are things that mom and dad gives them. Um but you can teach some other stuff. Now, some guys, they don't have the ability to learn new skills. Or they don't have the ability to absorb new skills. They've always been really good at certain things, and that does stunt their development. Um, there's some guys that they can learn every single skill, and they can overcome some physical deficiencies because they're just such a great worker. So it's really, I'm trying to think back through some of the real physical freaks. I think Ricky Waters had a really good combine. Again, it was in the time before we had a lot of the things, but Ricky Waters, was an extremely physically dynamic player. Um, Julian Peterson had an incredible combine. He was his athletic score was just wild. He was an athletic freak coming out. Vernon Davis, that's who probably has ever had the best combine for a 49er, really thinking about it. Vernon Davis, because he put up so many reps on the bench press. His 40 was 4.38, 4.39, just insane for his size, showing, I think his vertical was 39 inches, something like that. I think Strawberry's got that. Isaac Garendo, he's got one of the highest relative athletic scores ever to come out of the combine. I think he was in the top 50 of all RAS scores that have come out of the combine. I think of Connor Colby last year. As for guard, he was incredible at the combine. Had a really high RAS score. So there's been a number of really good. I mean, Debo had a good combine, but Debo was also marrying it to a really strong Senior Bowl. Remember, the 49ers were coaching that Senior Bowl. Shanahan was there and really loved seeing Debo, how he was as a person in person, and the production from college. They married all of those things together. So, when it comes to who had the best, it's subjective. It's subjective. So I'll be curious, but for me, as I've said a few times, the number one event I have for draft players is a Senior Bowl, because you get good on good, and you get to see these things on the field, and you get to see, do they have the game speed. And that's, I think, the people, y'all in the chat, are getting it about Jerry Rice's 40-yard dash was not great. And there are, beliefs and kind of urban legends that Jerry's was mistimed. And he was like, I don't care about my 40-yard dash, because when I have the ball in my hands, I'm going to run a 4.2, because if somebody's chasing me, I'll run a 4.2 and nobody's catching me. Jerry had game speed, and it was evident on film. I mean, that was Bill Walsh's notes about him in a hotel room watching his tape, his height, or his college tapes. He said he felt he was Lynn Swan with more speed. I think that's who he said it was. So that was who he comped him to. So he had the game speed. And so it doesn't matter as much. You can run a great 40, but if you haven't shown on game tape that you can get down the field, then it doesn't matter as much. If you can show you get down the field and your 40 says you're not great, then they'll kind of say, well, he can still win. Like Mike Evans is that kind of guy, not a blazing fast 40, but dude wins vertical all the time, still winning vertical. Devontae Adams, same way, still winning vertical down the field. And so, they didn't have, like, right now, I would say, at their stages of their careers, they're not running that 4.42 40, but they can still win vertical. Now some guys, if you see that they're their tape and it looks like sometimes they win vertical, sometimes they can't. Then you look at the 40-yard dash to say, okay, how quickly can we get down there? And I think Shanahan has talked about it though, that nowadays with the GPS trackers, it doesn't mean as much. The combine doesn't, as far as 40-yard times, because you can track these wide receivers and see who has the fastest miles per hour down there. So those are some things there with the combine. So the next player we're going to look at is one Zion Young from Missouri. My scouting report on Zion Young: he's a long athlete with great power and burst, can push the pocket, has great bend to win with speed, and can hold up at the point of attack against the run. And he looks to me, my comp for him, and this isn't a comp. Some people are going to be like, oh, well, good Lord, no, let's not get them. No, I'm more of what did he look like coming out of college, and how do I think the 49ers will envision him? I think with everything, he's kind of the player that I think they thought Drake Jackson would be, which he's similar measurements. Now he doesn't have as much length as TJ Parker. He's a little bit shorter, doesn't quite have the length, and you're going to see that here, but he's got quick feet. Now, this is one you see to get that bend, because they run around these bags so that you can't lean on it. They want to see just your natural bend around these bags. And the one that popped to me is this one. You see that bend around the hump. That is a very special trait right there, to be able to take that turn and get around the bend like that. That's a kind of trait that is not as common among these players. The ability to bend around there, like it looks like he's not doing much, but if you really slow it down and see how low can they get, how far around this hump can they get on that angle, is the trick on these. And he's got good bend, he's got good length, and here you're going to see the 10-yard split burst. So we're watching from here. It's about 10 yards to the next bag. So you're seeing this 10-yard split, dip, bang, violent hands, burst, dip, and then go get the quarterback. Good 10-yard speed. He's not going to win foot races. I watched his game against Auburn, and their quarterback just flat ran away from him. He's not a long speed guy. I think he's probably going to run in the 4.7, maybe 4.6 range. As a 40-yard dash, he's not going to be one of those top end 40 guys for a defensive end. But you see the 10-yard split is there. And those drills show that his speed to power is a problem. You're going to see that right here. He consistently was able to work tackles vertical and then move them off their spot and condense the pocket. So you can see how much this is Austin Barber from Florida, a tackle that I do like. And he's going to get moved just straight back and has to hold there at the end to keep from giving up a sack. And this looks like a replay of the same one, but it's not. This is a different rep. But same guy, same thing. You can see him drive the tackle 4 yards deep into the pocket. So that speed to power is a problem. He's got quick feet. This is Maxi Iheanacho, the kid from Arizona State that everybody's been really high on for his movement skills. Now, this is the first day. Max struggled a little bit, but watch the quickness that Zion Young is going to have here to get that inside move. So you like to see some variance here, okay? He's able to gets down in that sprinter stance, works his man vertical, and then slips inside for a would-be sack there. A win. Here you see the speed to power, and he plants his man. Love it. That's a power rush right there. He's going to work it and then get that guy's feet all tangled up because he just cannot handle the power. His speed to power is a really great move. It's just nasty. He's got that speed to power rush. Oh, and then he's got powerful hands. When a guy tries to absorb that power rush, he's going to bring it in. And there's the rip move to toss his man down. I love the look on his face at the end of this. We're going to see it. The pure joy and excitement he has over this win. Oh, look at that. And then there you see it. He's gonna give the guy a look back, and there's the smile. He knows he absolutely dominated that rep. So Zion Young is a kid that I think is a very interesting edge player. He can hold up against the run. He's an all-arounder. He can hold up against the run. Now he will be somebody that I think is very much in play for the 49ers at 27. I think this is a kid that's going to be I would rank him as a late first round pick. He's behind TJ Parker. If for some reason Parker is there at 27, he's the guy. Unless there's things in character concerns or concerns with the interview, his on-field performance, I think, and measurables are just better. But Zion Young is a very strong candidate. Again, when I talk about the separation on some of these guys, they aren't as far away from each other as you would expect. But he's there's a lot to like about him. He's not going to be there at the end of the second round. So if the 49ers are saying we want to get, one of these top 4 edge players, then you've got to get him at 27 if he's there, because he's not going to be there at 54. He's going to be gone, I think, by 45. I don't see him making it past 45. I think he's a really strong player. So somebody the 49ers should definitely consider going forward as a player that can be a very strong edge player and would fill that need. And then again, I think any one of these guys is instantly going to come in and be your number 2, number 3 edge player, and help solidify that spot. It depends on what they do with Bryce Huff. He's got $17 million cap hit this year. The 49ers, people are saying, we're 9th in cap space. I expect that to increase, actually. They're going to do something here with Brandon Ayuk. Now, they may absorb some dead money on that. They may kind of spread it out. But I think they're going to figure out something with Bryce Huff's contract. Either they're going to extend him and lower his cap number this year, or he's going to be cut. I think that's what's going to happen. They may put him on the trade block. I don't see a team really, like, you might get a 6th at this point for him. I don't think you're going to get back what you gave for him. But I think, we're going to see over the next few weeks what's going to happen with him as we head into the free agency period. They're going to open up even more space. So I think the 49ers are going to be in very good cap space going forward with that, because his cap numbers for his production in 2025 just don't mesh. So that's kind of where I see it with him. But we're going to keep moving here as long as I can get this video to play at full speed. There we go. I got it figured out. I'm going to catch up with the chat here and see, make sure I didn't miss anything, because you guys are awesome. So next, my third player on my board. Now, he is not far behind Zion Young. These guys are kind of 1A, 1B, or I guess 2A, 2B for me. Is one Derrick Moore from Michigan. Really like this kid as an edge player. I mean, it was hard. I actually had to go back and pull clips back and forth, because these guys were on the same team at the Senior Bowl. One is number 8, one is number 9. And they both are from M schools, and they're nearly the same height, weight. So it was really hard to tell who was who. And sometimes I kept putting Zion Young's clips in with Derrick Moore's, and sometimes I put Derrick Moore's as Zion Young, and it was getting me all confused. That's how much I see these kids as really similar players. I think a lot of their measurables are the same. I think their physicals are very similar. He has a little bit more just straight line speed than Zion Young. I think his 10-yard split might be just a tad slower, though. But he's somebody who will be able to run things down from the backside a little bit better. Zion Young, if it's a play away from him, generally he was not involved in the play at all. Derrick Moore, he could run some things down from the backside. But here we're going to see him on this first one. You're going to see that. That's where I mean the 10-yard burst there from bag to bag is not quite the same, but he doesn't dip as low on the bend around the bag. You can see it here. He doesn't have that same ability to sink as low to get as much bend around the edge. This is more of a dip, but he's got a little bit quicker feet. You're going to see it really well from this angle. He doesn't have the same bend as Zion Young, but it's still good. So he's able to still has the foot quickness to get there. I think his feet are a little bit quicker than Zion Young's, but doesn't have the bend. But man, he's got speed to power. This was early on. This was first day of the Senior Bowl. He gave this kid a welcome to the Senior Bowl moment. Absolutely planted him with the speed to power. Oh, I forgot my scouting report on him. So Derrick Moore, here's what I have. Powerful, fast athlete with great burst. Bend isn't quite as good as Young, so I mentioned that, but has a great motor, strong at the point of attack, and has powerful hands. Doesn't have TJ Parker's length, and he can get swallowed up by some bigger frame tackles. That is his biggest issue, is that his arms are, I think he's got the shortest of these three, and here you're going to see that. So that's exactly what happens here. Bell, the kid from Miami, he's able to swallow him up. This is a big frame kid. Bell is a big frame kid. But you can see there against a big frame, he does get swallowed up sometimes. But when he's able to get into their body, that speed to power is nasty. And you can see it there, able to press the pocket, use that speed to power. Once he can get past the good hand fighting skills, that's what you love to see. When guys don't have great length, you want to see how good are their hand fighting skills, because that's going to become really important to get another guy's hands off him. And you can see it here. There's the hand fighting skills. Now that guy got a piece of his face mask. But you see the hand fighting to get that guy's hands off of him while still pushing the pocket. So really exciting to see there. Now here against a smaller frame tackle, now there is no issue. There is the hand fighting. Oh man, I love the hand skills of this kid. Really good hand skills. Sometimes it happens so quickly, it's hard to see, but look at him able to grab the arm. I mean, that's really good hand-eye coordination. That's Nick Bosa kind of stuff. Get that guy's hands off of him. There it is. Still maintain power into his chest and drive this guy back. That's condensing the pocket. That is speed to power. That is great hand skills. That's an ability to work through the engagement of the block. You're going to see it from this angle. And this is the kid from Illinois. Just really like a lot of things about him. That he's going to be gone, I think, before the end of the second round. So he's another guy that, the 49ers, if you're going to think about this kid, you maybe look at a trade back situation where, okay, I look at a team that's maybe early second that wants something else in the first. They want that fifth year option. We're going to trade back into the early first or early second if it's there, and then go grab this kid Derrick Moore. If you're not in love with Zion Young at 27, or he's gone, TJ Parker's gone, but you really want to address edge with your first pick, that's the kid. Now, can he hold up against the run? This is Derrick Moore. Again, why I like all three of these guys are real close to me. You're going to see him here on a run play, take this tight end for a ride. So he's going to try to block him, and he just drives him back into the run lane. You're going to see it from the end zone. I think I have both end zone angles here. Here he is on this one. This is one of those plays that will never show up on a stat sheet, but absolutely makes his play. I mean, he drives that tight end into the running back. That is edge setting against the run. That tight end, I got to look it up and see who that was so I can make sure. 88, it was Dan Villari from Syracuse. So Dan Villari got taken for a ride. Here we're going to see the speed to power. He's on the right side. He's going to go against, this is Max. This is Maxi Iheanacho. This is on day 2, I believe, of the Senior Bowl. This was one of Max's stronger days, but you're going to see how far he gets condensed into this pocket. Pay attention to the hashes here, because everything moves afterwards. You're going to see him drive. He's got to work around the tight end. He drove Maxi Iheanacho to the far hash. Max started inside this hash, and he has moved all the way to the other hash. That is what forces the quarterback to get rid of this ball. He's got a guy that's coming open over the middle, and he has to outlet the ball to the flat immediately to get rid of the ball. Now I'll say that's one of my favorite running backs in this class. But that is the speed to power. And again, translating from the drills to the team. Some guys can look really, really good in drills and they disappear in teams. Also, remember that when you show it in team, it means something because these guys only get maybe 4 to 5 reps of team drills per period, and they only do 2 team periods during each practice. So these guys get only about 30 reps in the week in team drills to show what they have. And so if they can do that, that tells you something. That is in that win percentage that you're looking for. So he's up here and watch this dip and rip. So this is that ability for speed and the quick feet and the good hands. He works speed and he would have got a sack and he knows it. He's excited, but he's still great motor. He's still going to keep running. I love it. I love a kid that's got a great motor that's going to keep going. So here he is. He's going to work on the kid from Indiana again, or Illinois, excuse me. He's going to get up there. The hand fighting. Look at the hand skills. Again, translating these things to live game reps. I love to see that there he is. There's that same. This looks exactly like the individual drill against this guy, right? Like exactly like it. So some people will be hard on the individual drills. They're like, oh, that doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't show anything. If you want a true evaluation, that's the worst clip to look at. And I go, no, it isn't when you can see this. Does this look exactly like how he went against that guy in individual drills? If he can do it exactly like he did in individual drills in the team drills, that tells you it is the real deal. It is not just an individual drill thing. He works the hands, gets under and drives into what would be into a sack into the quarterback. He lets up there because they don't want them taking out quarterbacks in the practices. So a dip and rip for a would-be sack. Love it. I really like this kid, Derrick Moore. I think any of these guys, these are all 3 guys who are going to be gone by 45. I think 45, 46 at most is where these guys go. I think all 3 of them don't make it past the mid second round. That's where they're going to be. So these are all, again, players that the 49ers need to look at early if they're going to address edge. And these are 3 that are really strong candidates. So again, you're seeing, and I don't mean to just keep repeating myself, but I want to hammer the point in. You're seeing that there are good quality prospects. If it's not, just because they don't get TJ Parker in the first round and they, maybe get a guy or they trade up for one of these guys and people go, why are they trading up for somebody? Well, this is why. And it will be interesting to see what they do with Mac Jones. If you get a second round pick for Mac Jones from an early second, then this becomes really interesting in play because you have your first round pick. You can do that. If you have like someone like Kenyon Sadiq, who's there, we're going to look at Kenyon here in the coming weeks. And you say, they can address that. If you have an early second, you can say they can go get Zion Young. They can go get Derrick Moore. One of those 2 guys is going to be there. They don't have to reach for either one. They're going to be there. So I think that makes it really intriguing for what they can do in that spot. So just a second, I'm going to grab a sip of coffee here so I don't dry out my voice too much. But y'all are doing great. You're hanging with me. If you like this kind of episode, give me a thumbs up. If you say, Johnny, this ain't it, send me an email. Don't put it in the chat. No, I'm just kidding. But we're going to move on to my last guy, number 4. And this is a kid I love. I've really come to love this kid as a prospect. This is somebody, well, you're just going to see. You're just going to see. He's not the all-arounder that Derrick Moore and Zion Young are. I think he has a higher ceiling than both of those guys as a pass rusher. And that's Gabe Jacas from Illinois. Here's my scouting report on him. I'll start with that. Super twitchy athlete with great first step, long arms, and fantastic bend. Isn't as strong against the run, but pass rush ceiling seems sky high, and he consistently maintains good leverage. This is more of a traits pick. This is more of a potential pick. He's not the player, again, he's not the edge setter that you have in Parker, Moore, or Zion Young, but it's where I also say, okay, if you're not comfortable with Bryce Huff's cap hit and he becomes a cap casualty, you need that speed rusher. You need a young guy as a speed rusher. This to me would be the top target for that kind of a role. Super twitchy athlete, really, really twitchy athlete. I'll just pull up the clip here. So one, you can see he's a smaller frame. This dude is already ripped out. I don't think he's got a frame that he can add another 20 pounds, 15 pounds, and be the kind of athlete he is. You're going to want to keep him around this size. But watch this burst from bag to bag. First, he's going around there. He's got the bend to get around the edges or to get around the bags. Really like what he brings as an athlete. There's the bend that you want to see. I'm going to back this up. You're going to see the ability to dip through there and get around that bend, to sink the hips, get sideways, and get around that hump. Really strong. There's another good look at it. You're going to see him get really, really strong, good bend around the corner. And you can see the difference between him and Derrick Moore, right? So it's really clear. Now here's that boom. Look at how much faster he covers from bag to bag than Derrick Moore did. And Derrick Moore's a good prospect. Okay. So we see him, bam, right to the second bag, works it through, gets around there. There's the dip, and there's the go and get the sack. What would be the sack there? Really intriguing, super twitchy, bursty athlete. You see the explosion in the first 10 yards, the quick feet around the bend, and his long arms as he's reaching out. He can win with his hands. Here he's going against one of his own teammates. There it is. Gives him fits. He's able to use those hands, dip, and get around the hump there. The guy cuts him off, and then he rips and goes. So he's more of that deeper kind of win guy, right? There he is again. Work vertical, work to depth. Get vertical and get depth on your wins. He can win with speed. He can win with speed to power. Now he can get out over his heels a little bit. He's staying so young, but you can see him. He's this dude is just like a coiled spring ready to snap. Here he is going against Maxi Iheanacho, driving him back into the quarterback. There's that speed to power, ferocious fighting edge player. Just get it vertical, bam, get into that guy's chest and drive him back. Just such a twitchy athlete, bursty athlete. You can just see he's a coiled spring ready to go, able to go attach. He kind of reminds me of a guy I loved last year, Femi Oladejo. There's the speed over the hump. Love it. There's the speed rush. I think he had the best speed rush at the Senior Bowl here to get up vertical and work around his guy, just with straight speed. That is speed. Bring me speed. So he is just a super twitchy athlete. Now, you're going to see him in team drills. Here's that speed coming off the edge. So can we once again see the translation from the drills to the field, to the team drills, from the individual to the team drills? And there it is. All right. So I believe he's going against Bell from Miami again on here. Who again, we've seen he's going to be an NFL player. He's going to be a good tackle in this league. Big giant frame guy, a big guy to get around. There he is. Look at that speed to get on there. And it's only because he's put in a headlock that he doesn't get a sack. That would draw a penalty. I mean, that's what keeps him from getting to the quarterback here. So that's that insane burst off the edge. This is a kid I really like, because he's going to be there at the end of the second round, I think, because he's not the all-arounder that the other guys are. But you can see that speed is there, the burst is there, the twitch is there. You love to see this. And what I've said about, and there he is, beats the same guy, beats Bell again, gets around that big frame. And that that is just insane speed off the edge. I'm telling you, this kid is exciting. I like what I see from him. Here he is on the other side. Now he's going against his teammate there. You're going to see the same thing. That speed off the edge is a problem. I mean, you just speed, 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 speed. Love this kid, Gabe Jacas, however you say it, from Illinois. He is, I think, like I said, I think he's one of the most intriguing speed rushers in this class. His first few steps are dynamic. He's somebody that brings an element you can't teach. Now he's a little bit underdeveloped as a pass rusher because he's so good at that. But that speed is wild, and you can see it there on the field. It translated in from the individual drills to the position drills to the team drills. That tells you he has the goods that is there. Now, is he going to be great? That's where the background checks and everything come into play. But I love this kid. He's becoming one of my biggest draft crushes in this class, from Illinois. So, and I will say, we watched a lot of the same tape yesterday with Rob Guerrera on our weekly show, and Rob quickly became, just seeing all that, a big Gabe Jacas fan. So let me know what you think. Who would be the guy that you would say the 49ers if we're looking at the first two rounds? If you think, okay, either a trade back, sit at 27, hope, sit at 54, and hope that Jacas is there. Who would you pick? If you're just looking at the 49ers' needs and what these picks could allow them to do, who would be your guy? Let us know in the comments. Let us know who your favorite was from that. If we didn't look at a guy, let me know who some of your top guys that you want to see going forward are going to be. Let me know in the comments. Make sure it's in the comments, because if it's in the chat, the live chat here, I love the live chat. That brings people in. But let me know in the comments of the show, because those stay forever unless I delete them. But I don't. I don't believe in censorship in our comments, even if it's nasty Seahawks fans. We let their trash talk live forever, and we will keep the receipts. So let me know in the comments of what you posted on X. If you're there, that's where I'm mainly on the social medias. So hope you enjoyed the episode. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.